I continue to be stuck here in the rain, but I found a more permanent sort of shelter where I will stay for the time being. But I thought I would, in this location, comment on something that's a little different from the last two videos that I've recorded. And I think that I almost wish sometimes that I had maybe come up with more than one channel, because a lot of my stuff might seem really kind of disparate. I talk about stuff relating to modern relations between the sexes and the modern state of masculinity and all of that. But then I also talk about other stuff like you know, conspiracy theories, as they would mostly be called derisively by many. And I don't know if the audience for one is necessarily the audience for another, and I'm pretty sure that in many cases they aren't one and the same. And so I've always had something kind of eclectic going on here. I also like to talk about arts, you know, books and movies and so forth. So it's a very multi-focused. There's no one thing that I focus in on, hone in on, and that's probably to my detriment ultimately as far as gaining views. But I don't really, I've given up on the whole idea of gaining views. So as I've said before, and I'm actually kind of happy to have fewer views, because it means I get in under the radar a little bit more. Whereas I would surely get doxxed much more heavily, as I did on my old channel, if I were higher profile, as I was on my old channel, though not by that much. So, preamble over. The subject, what the subject I'm going to talk about right now begin. I saw, there was a meme yesterday that I saw that really captured the current state of the current state of relations between the sexes, as the weather angrily reacts around me here, because it's something that should make you angry. It should make you thunder with rage. There was a picture of, I'm not sure where it was from. Was it from some show? Was it maybe from the Bachelorette? I don't watch those shows, so I wouldn't know. But there was like a good-looking young woman in her mid to late 20s reclining on a couch. And all around her were, like, I think 8 guys standing around looking at her, sizing her up, or, you know, sort of looking for their way to get in, you know, to her good graces. And if I find that meme, I'll show it to y'all. But just let my description of it suffice for now. And yes, it's enough to make you thunder with rage and strike the earth down with abundant lightning. It truly is. So the one thing that's important to know about this picture is the girl was good looking, but all the guys were pretty good looking too. So this wasn't you know, beauty and a bunch of, you know, geeks or incels or whatever standing around her. This was like this was a girl who seemed to have high SMV. I hate that jargon, but the guys did too. The guys looked, you know, they were handsome, they were well dressed. But it was clear who was in control. It was the girl. She was luxuriating on this couch with this smirk on her face, and all the guys were standing around her. waiting for their turn, basically. And I make the point that there was, the guys were good looking too, just like the girl was, just to say this is not like an angry incel kind of issue thing. This is not me, saying, oh, damn all these Chads and Stacys, and that's not my focus here. This was showing something that was real and true about the current day dating scene, the current day relations between the sexes. That was deeply demoralizing. And what it said was something like, dating a woman these days is like you're standing in line, there's a bunch of other guys behind you. Once you get your turn, it happens really fast, and then there's always a bunch of other guys waiting in line behind you, like I said. So you're stuck in line. You are ultimately going to be in line. Now, this does not mean necessarily in some crass kind of way, although it could be in a crass kind of way. Probably often is in a crass kind of way. But I don't mean just like, oh, you're waiting for your turn to to have sex with her. It could just be waiting for your turn to have a date with her, an innocent date, whatever. And it could be totally chaste, although it probably isn't, because this is 2021 and the virtues have all gone to hell in the West. But nevertheless, that's not the main point that I'm making here. Okay. So it's over fast, and there's always a lot of other guys who are eager to take your place, you're competing with, essentially. And this goes for probably any girl out there, anyone you would want to go out with. There's probably she's probably got all these would-be suitors, and she's juggling them, and she's got control. It's just very much like the Bachelorette. I don't know, that's why it made me think of that, even though I've never watched the show. The Bachelorette is the version of the show where the girl is the one who's choosing between all these guys, and they all get to go on dates with her, and they all try to impress her in their own kinds of various ways. It's so demeaning. It's so because I'm not, if it's like, I'm inclined to think when it's between me and it's the same way that I am applying for a job. If it's like me and 25 other people applying for this job, and they ask me some challenging question like, and so what makes you think you have what it takes to be in our firm? What makes you think you should be the one to be a crappy English teacher at our crappy institution? Because there's a lot of other people who are applying for this job. So what makes you different, mister? What makes you stand out? It's always just sort of like, I don't care if I impress you or not. I'm not here to do tricks for you. I'm not here to try to, think of the exactly right thing to say at exactly the right time. I'm not going to try to be, so witty and so cool and have the perfect wardrobe and just have them be like, yeah, that's the man. That's the guy I want. Same goes for dating, okay? If I'm competing with, if it's like, Well, it's you, and I'm also seeing him and 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 him. So what do you have that they don't? What makes you stand out? It's again, I don't, you know, I opt out at that moment. I'm like, screw this. And again, this isn't even taking into consideration, you know, the Pareto Principle. What do they call it? The Pareto Principle, the 80-20 rule. All the thing, you know, the fact that the good-looking guys have harems while the average-looking guys get shut out. This isn't even, you know. Let's just say, let's just posit that I'm, you know, a good-looking guy. I know that's a hard thing hard to imagine, but you know, maybe in some circumstances, in some contexts, maybe I could pass muster. Even then, when I could be in the running, it's like, oh well. What really makes me stand out, though? I really should work on myself so I can stand out. Well, I don't want to stand out. I don't care about, you know, if you're looking at me and just thinking, okay, you got to wow me here. You got to really wow me here. Look, I'm not auditioning for you. I don't want to be in your damn play if that's what it takes. I don't want the job if that's what it takes. I don't want to be your boyfriend if that's what it takes. All right? I'd rather just opt out because it ain't worth it. And that meme really summed it all up really well. And it summed it up without it becoming, you know, because so often this just becomes fodder for, oh, you're just angry and frustrated because you're an incel and blah blah blah. Look, I've been married. I have 2 kids. I'm not a fucking incel. Okay, think what you want, but it's not true. It's not so. So you can't. You might want to use that insult to try to puncture my confidence or whatever, or to try to put me down. But this meme, again, these guys are not what you would think of as incel guys. Nothing against incel guys or guys who consider themselves incels or guys who call themselves incels. Of course, I'm not against them. Just that's the way it is. If this is the way it is, then I don't see why. I mean, I don't see why. I'm not gonna make myself into a clown. I'm not gonna, you know, put on. I'm not gonna learn some tricks. You know, I'm not gonna do this or that to make me extra charming or extra handsome or extra whatever. It's not happening. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather just do my thing, okay? I'd rather just do my thing. And is it sad? Sure. Is it frustrating a little bit? Sure, especially coming off of a failed marriage that I thought was going to be, at one point, I thought was going to last forever. Of course, there's some sadness and frustration and all of that. Of course there is. But I'm just going to say I would rather be alone and sad and frustrated than in that kind of, than put myself through that degree of just demeaning myself that way. You know, screw that. Screw that to hell. So, I just wanted to get my thoughts down on this subject. Thanks for listening. My name's Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.